freelancers are simply not going to do a good job, and it's not going to be related in any way to what you asked. And many times it's because of their English. I don't know why, but so many weird people get to these platforms.
I don't want to lose this person if they're good, but I also don't want to commit now because maybe I have a few more interviews that I need to do. But now we're at a different point where
two types of employees, the one that give you energy and the one that takes energy from you. If it's the kind of guy that take energy from you, let him go and find someone else. If it's a guy who's giving you energy, go all in. You guys can smash it together.
What we need to do?
Progress bars.
Yesterday we got our first paying customer.
But I was thinking maybe we could do like...
How do you know like what's a big story?
We get access to their analytics. Is there a way to... We're playing the game, so if there's ads, we're gonna run ads.
Yes, we need to learn out the kind of customizer related work.
And it can help us grow.
Hi guys, welcome back to Online Biz TV. I am Ruth and this is Eric, and in today's video we are going to talk all about hiring freelancers. Our company is built out of 90% freelancers. We hardly ever employ anyone who is not a freelancer, so we do have a lot of experience with it, and we wanted to just sit down and talk about it and share it with you. So without further ado, let's just get started. I think the first question is, when should you hire a freelancer? So what would you say, Eric? When should people start about, well, not just freelancers, but hiring employees and staff in general? When should they start thinking about it?
Yeah, I think, so we made a video about it not long ago. We're gonna mention it somewhere here. I thought about it for a while, when exactly it's time to hire for the first, role in the business. Usually I think it's when things are getting overwhelming in terms of workload, and you just need to pass it to someone else. So you're basically buying help, and then you can pass it along to them. Usually in e-commerce, the first employee you're going to bring in is customer support. Once you're starting to get too many orders, you're going to need someone to answer customer requests and handling fulfillment and all this stuff. So customer support, it's like, I think for us as well, for us we had developers, but then we needed customer support. But I think it's pretty much assumed in a software company if you're not a developer, yeah. So I think.
I think you touched a really good point here, because you really shouldn't hire people before you have to hire people. A lot of the times, people just hire people. Business owners would hire someone just because they don't feel like doing the job right now, or because I don't know, they think that it's below their level to do something. But there's no such a thing. When it's your business, you have to do everything. And then for us, it's a really good example comparing e-commerce to what we did, because for us, because we were not able to be developers, we had to hire them from day one. If we could, we would have written the code ourselves and only then hire them.
Specifically with development, it's a set of skills that take a long time to build. And I know a few business owners that actually decided to learn code, and this way they started, but this is really taking it to the next level. We are a little bit more lazy than that. I do think that many people are making these hires just because it's kind of uncomfortable for them to learn this field themselves. But I do think that the best point for you to hire someone is after you've done it for a while, at least in a way. You don't have to be the best in the world, you don't have to be the most professional person in it, but you need to know the KPIs, and you need to somehow control this area of the business, so that whenever someone else comes in, you can look at what he does and say, it's good, it's not good, how can we improve? So, I don't know, for email marketing, for example, if you just bring in someone and he'll tell you, hey, after a month, hey, I generated X amount of money. If you have nothing to compare it to, if you don't know what he's talking about, there is no way you can improve his performance over time, and you don't even know if he's good or not. So you better play with it a little bit before you pass it on forward.
Yeah, that's true, and I think there are some outliers to that. So there are some things, just like development, or in our case, things like server management and DevOps. It's not things that we necessarily know to say, oh yeah, we know it well enough to know exactly the KPI. But we do know what we want out of the app, and we do know that we want it to be available and fast. So we have a general idea of what we want to happen, but in most cases, like in 99% of cases, you should be familiar enough with what the freelancer that you bring in is going to do. And I think another point that you kind of started talking about in the beginning is that you should hire the freelancers when you are no longer capable of doing it. Whatever it is, because it's just too much work and you have other stuff to do, or because your business has grown and there are too many customers, so you have to bring customer support so you can focus on growth. This is like a prerequisite to bring in someone in, to feel like you've kind of done everything you could and you're like up to here with work and you have to bring someone in.
Yeah, and I think another final point regarding when to hire is you need to do this when the business can afford it. It's very easy to bring in people based on assumed revenue or projected revenue. Now, if you raised some money for your business and it's going to take a while until you're going to see revenue because you don't have anything yet ready, then obviously you need to use this capital for salaries. But if you're bootstrapped, you want to make sure you bring in the first people when the business can afford it, when there is a revenue going towards that salary of that new employee or new freelancer. Otherwise, you're just going to find yourself pretty fast in a way that you are overspending and you're going to have to shut down. At the beginning, it's best to just work super hard as you can, grinding it out until you can afford to bring in this help.
Yeah, I also think that if you're not paying yourself a salary yet, then you need to think about, is it the time to bring someone new in? And I'm not saying you should pay yourself before you bring in first employees, because that's not necessarily true. But if you can't afford to pay yourself and you can't afford to pay someone else, you should maybe ask yourself, well, can I just do it until I have a little bit more money and I can afford to pay both myself and this someone else?
Yeah, and I think so we touched some of the points of when is the right time to hire. Now there are two options, and it might vary based on the country, but generally speaking, you can get a freelancer and you can get an employee. Do you want to talk a little bit about the differences and what your take on what's the best way to go?
Yeah, sure. So an employee, someone that works in your company, is someone that is basically your employee. Now, again, there is a difference between different countries according to the law and the rules of this country, but you would pay them benefit and a pension, maybe health insurance, again, depending what country you're from. So there are additional costs. It's not just the salary. That's number one to know. So local employees tend to be more expensive. Again, depending on the country. Some countries, labor forces are cheaper, so hiring someone local is not going to be more expensive. And the big advantage of someone local is that it's in-house. They probably can sit with you in the same office. It's a lot easier to communicate with someone who has the same native language. There's a lot of benefits.
And it can do physical tasks. I mean, if your business is physical.
Yeah, then you have to have someone local.
If you have a restaurant, no one from India is going to help you.
Unless you live in India.
Bring the food, yeah, unless you live in India.
And then for a freelancer is someone who is not your employee. It's basically someone who gives you an invoice at the end of the month or whatever time frame you decide on, and you pay them for the invoice. You don't need to pay them any kind of benefits. You just pay them for the work that you agreed that he would do. Now, this person is not an employee of your company, so the level of commitment that they have to your company might be smaller, which is a downside. But again, it's not necessarily true. We have developers that we've worked with for 3 years now, and they're amazing. And they have a lot of commitment to us, just like we have a lot of commitment to them. The big advantage of the big few advantages, the way I see it, with freelancers are that they tend to be less expensive, both because of the type of work, like the type of contract that you have, and because you can select them from countries where labor forces are cheaper, where the salary, like the average salary, that's the word I was looking for, is lower. And B, they allow you more freedom. Because if you are looking to build an internet business where you are not locked into an office, then you should work with freelancers where everyone works remotely. So if you build your business in a way that your employees are used to you being in the office with them all the time, it's going to be more difficult to suddenly become a digital nomad. Like, you should build a business.
Yeah, especially if you look at what's happening today with the corona, the COVID-19 crisis. A lot of companies just had to move to remote work, and a lot of businesses had a lot of issues with that.
Yeah.
And we didn't face any issues. By the way, we chose to go the freelance way with what we can. Chen, for example, who sits right here, is an employee of the company. Simply and purely not because he's good. He's not good at what he's doing. It just, we couldn't hire a remote employee to do the setup, get the gear, and actually filming us in the stock. And I'm joking, we love you. You're great. So yeah, it's really a choice of lifestyle. It's a choice of dealing with legal stuff that many times you maybe just don't want to do. You can get committed, like you can be committed to your employees, and they can be committed to you. It's to your freelancers, but it's up to you, like how you build it, the culture within the company. I do think, however, that it's also depend on the type of job. So if it's a long-term job, maybe employees is a better way to go, because as you grow, you kind of have more, you're giving him more, and obviously you want to give more to your employees, to give them this security. As a business owner, you want to give them this security. And with freelancers, if it's a long-term job, like, I don't know, a renovation or a gig or just a one-time project, then maybe going freelancer is the easiest way to go. It is going to save you all the time for documents and then going through a lot of setup process, a lot of paperwork and all this.
You could also do a hybrid. Like, I know a lot of high-tech companies where they have everyone in-house to do with the R&D, and then support is freelancers or remote workers from other countries, just because it's cheaper and it is not the core of the business. So, okay, so we've talked about freelancers versus employees. Now let's talk a little bit about where to get freelancers from, because this is really the focus of this video. So we usually use two platforms to get freelancers. Eric, do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so the two most common platforms we use to hire remote employees or freelancers are Fiverr and Upwork. They look the same, they're completely different. There are a lot of other solutions like onlinejobs.ph, there's a toptal.com, I don't know. There are a few other places to find a place. You can also find people through Facebook, but we wanted to have a process that over time gets more automated, and it becomes easier for us to find those people. So generally, if I just put the main difference between Fiverr and Upwork, and that's not it's not 100% true all the time. It kind of a mix-up. Generally speaking, Fiverr is more for gigs and one-time jobs, because you can find a bunch of freelancers there. They have gigs they're doing on a daily basis, every time the same thing. So they're highly professional, highly effective at what they're doing, but it's just that specific thing. So that's great if you have something very specific you wanna do. And then Upwork is better for long-term jobs, for professionals who know their field around something, and you can hire them and they can adjust to you for more customizable jobs. Also, they have a work diary when you can track what employees are doing, and they have an escrow service, so you can pay them by the hour, and you can do also fixed rate. With Fiverr, you usually just pay for the job, and that's it.
Yeah, and it's also easier to find, I think, in Fiverr, people who just give you a specific rate for a specific job. In Upwork, it does tend to be more like a negotiation, and you give your rate, and then they offer their rate, and it's not as set in stone, I would say. Also, Fiverr tend to be like the better place for creatives, I think. Anything to do with video or images or anything that is creative is easier to
even
find.
designing a website, because they like it's much easier. Usually what the reason for that, by the way, is just the way of the search results are showing. On Upwork you can see the freelancers themselves and their titles, but there is no room for you to see a preview of their design work or their how do you call it? Work diary?
Portfolio.
Portfolio. On Fiverr, if you search something, it's going to automatically show also a thumbnail of representing the gig. So it's going to make it easier, even if it's not related to graphics directly, but you're going to see something that's going to help you see what it's about, or you can also see a video right from the search results. So that's super helpful. So these are the two, and it's not set in stone. Sometimes we find long-term employees on Fiverr, and sometimes we just do gig through Upwork. It really depends, and you need to always just understand what you're trying to achieve and decide which is the better platform for you in that case. Okay. Now, once you chose the platform, let's talk a little bit about the process and how to write the job description. You want to elaborate a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So when you write the job post, there are a few best practices that we follow, which the first thing, which I think we say almost about everything we talk about in regards to business, is to be very specific. You write your job post, it doesn't have to be long, but you want to tell them a little bit about the company, the type of work you're looking for. Is it one time or something that is ongoing? You can even mention the rate in there. You should mention the skills that you're looking for and the tasks that they will be expected to do. So really be specific. We also like to give a lot of examples. So let's say I want a website designed. I would look in the web for websites that I really like the design of, that it's kind of like what I want, and give them at least 2 examples, if not 3 or 4, so they have a range of exactly what I like. And when I give the examples, I would even refer to, I like this component from this website and this component from this website. Really, really specific. Another thing is, it's a trick that you actually taught me, which is to ask a question in the middle of the job post that is not related to the job post. Like, hey, can you tell me what is 5 + 2 when you reply to this job post? And the only goal of this thing is to make sure that they read the entire thing. They're not sending you like a draft that they have that they didn't even edit, but they actually...
because what's happening, like you're on the employee side, but on the on the freelancer side, there are many freelancers that just go through works and just apply. You don't want these people, obviously. You want people that are highly qualified for the job.
It helps you know that the person is actually reading what you wrote. So that's a good start.
That's a good start, yeah.
You need good
He can read English.
He can read English, and he didn't just apply.
Yeah, and he know how much is 5 + 2, which is a bonus.
I mean, I don't know how much it is to you. Okay, so I think these are my tips for the actual description. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, there are a few things. I think you can... Another important thing is talk a little bit about training. So they'll know what expected for them. If you're going to pay them less during this, maybe during the training, they should be aware about it.
Yeah.
Tell them what you expect from them. Tell them what is a must for someone who need to do this job, and what are the pluses. So they're gonna mention that. If you're gonna say, okay, 1, 2, 3 is a must. If you don't have this, please do not apply. And then 5 things that are a big plus for us to consider you as a candidate. So these are great things to add. And then you also want to add a few qualifying questions that are not just to make sure that they actually read it. You can, in Upwork, you can just do it in a separate section, so that's even better.
Yeah.
But just a few questions that if he can answer them, is probably qualified for the job. So it can be technical, it can be just to see the way he thinks.
Yeah.
This is what I usually do with customer support. You want to see the way he thinks. You can give him, okay, how would you handle this, like this case? Take it. Okay.
Take this mad customer and do something about it.
Yeah, and you also want to ask for examples of work that prove that he have the capabilities. Now this is, again, don't take this as 100% true, because they can very easily fake their jobs. It
Yeah.
happens all the time, but still, if it's true, it's a good starting point. So with our developers, for example, we ask for links to apps you already developed. With customer support, I don't think that's necessary, but so you can just check the way he thinks. And with anything related to design, like you can say, show me, if you are building a SaaS website, show me 5 different SaaS websites you've already built. And then the last thing I think in the job post that's going to help you do the screening at the end is adding somewhat of a test job. Again, this is not something that is applicable for all jobs, but it's a good thing to help you really find out the best of the best. Is add a test job to test them. So it can be, if it's something related to design and you have something in mind of how you want the design to look like, ask them for a draft, ask them for something, give them the rule, ask them to send you something back, and then not only you're gonna find someone that is good, you're gonna find someone that already did the job before you even hired him. So you can just, let's say, and I gave this example again in the video, it's like a funnel. Let's say that 20 people applied, 10 of them answered the qualifying questions, including the one that testing that they read it, and then 3 more sent you designs of the logo you want to create. One of them actually looks pretty much similar to what you want. That's it. You're basically done with the hire. You can just give him some
less pointers and be done with it.
Yeah.
And I think a few important pointers about this test job is that it has to be something that the freelancer knows he will not get paid for unless you use it. And of course, you will not use it if it's not good enough, because you would be surprised how impressive profiles can be, and then someone gives you something that looks like a 5-year-old made it. And it's not always because they can't. Sometimes it seems like they just have some pre-made drafts and they're like, oh yeah, take this, without actually trying to make it fit your business. And then when you insist that this is not good enough, the second draft would suddenly be so much better, which we've seen a lot. But it does sometimes point to unprofessionalism and not being capable of doing it. So for us, it's really important to just clarify to them, look, the test job, you will not get paid unless you do a good job. And then if they do a good job, you hire them. Now for a one-time gig, it can be, like you said, something that is, they created the logo and that's it. I mean, I'm just paying them, they already did the job. But for things that are more long-term, even the test job could be longer. So like a developer, for example, test job could be like a week of them developing a small feature, and then you seeing that they followed the instructions.
I think that what we did at the beginning with the test job for the developers was go through the specification document.
No, but
together and ask questions and
yeah, but we actually asked them, I think, to develop something. We were like,
maybe the front end for shipping. I don't remember.
I think so. We asked them to develop something small. I don't remember exactly what.
Yeah.
And then the idea is you ask them something that is out of the original task. So if you have an app that you want to develop, you ask for a small feature that they can do in like a week, and then you test it with them, see that they are actually capable, that they follow the instructions, and then hire them for sure. But it has to be understood on both sides, so you also don't get, I don't know, make them feel like they've been scammed, or their rights have been, like, how do you say it? That you violated their copyrights. Yeah. Make sure they know you will not use it if you don't pay them.
Yeah, and another important thing actually that we didn't mention, that this is like super important, I don't know how we forgot it, especially if it's a gig, not only, but especially if it's a gig, make sure you're describing the end result very specifically. And the reason for that is many times freelancers are simply not going to do a good job, and it's not going to be related in any way to what you asked. And many times it's because of their English. I don't know why, but so many weird people get to these platforms. So you ask them to build your website, and you describe the end result, exactly how you want to look like, even set up a mock-up or something like that. And then they create them, you hire them because they sound the most professional people ever, and then a week later they deliver your website and it's an email. And then it's like, what? And if you describe it right and you show it to the platform, they're gonna get you the money back. So it's important to describe the end result for the gig very efficiently, and I think this is something that is important.
Yeah, and it's important to, in like 90% of cases, we will not agree to prepay anything. And it's not, and I understand that sometimes the freelancer can feel like afraid that you will not pay after the job is done. That's why Upwork is such a good place, because you can say, you can set up a milestone and say, I will pay you this sum in the end of the month, and then Upwork will pay this sum unless you open some sort of a dispute, or if something is not done correctly. That gives insurance to you and to the freelancer. But we, I think, agreed for prepayment twice, something like that, in the entire time we've worked with freelancers, and we always got the money back. I mean, it was never good. It was never the people who know that they are good would a lot of the times skip the prepayment because they know that they are good, and they know you will pay them because they're good.
I think it's even more than that. I think we truly believe in hire fast, fire faster, and many times it can take 5 hires to find the right person, or more. But once you find it, you know it's the one, and you keep working together. And if you pay in advance, many times it's not going to be it, and it's a waste of time, your time and his time. It's better to just cut it as soon as possible. So do it as soon as possible. Give it 3 days. If you see, there are 2 types of employees: the one that give you energy and the one that takes energy from you. If it's the kind of guy that take energy from you, let him go and find someone else. Do it in a very polite and nice way. If it's a guy who's giving you energy, go all in, and you guys can smash it together. Now, I think we spoke enough about how to screen candidates. Let's talk a little bit about interviews.
For interviews, you should be interviewing the people who have gone through the screening. So basically the people who you agree on the rates, and you feel like they have good communication. And then the interview is kind of like your way of actually seeing the person, talking to them, and also agreeing on some of the details. Some of the details are easier to agree on when you talk to the person rather than when you just communicate in writing. So for me, I don't have any specific tips for interviews. It's just you do a video interview with the person, you talk to them, you ask them a little bit about themselves, you tell them a little bit about your company. What I like to do is actually ask them about the job, because sometimes you would write a long message with the job description, and they're like, yeah, I can do all of that. I like to actually either ask them how they understand the job, or go over each one of the job tasks, the descriptions, and talk to them about it and ask them, do you have experience doing this? Do you have experience doing that? Do you feel like you're capable of that? Because I think when you talk, you understand how professional the person actually is. You understand how sure of themselves they are. Sometimes you have a better bullshit detector when you're talking to people rather than when you're writing with them. And then for me, if I think this person is a good fit, I would go ahead and give them from the interview the test task, and move forward. I don't want to lose this person if they're good, but I also don't want to commit now, because maybe I have a few more interviews that I need to do. So just do the test task right after the interview if you didn't do it before, if it's a longer one, and from there move to communicate with him in another platform, Slack or Skype or something like that.
Yeah, so I'd add a few things for interviews. First of all, again, whenever doing the interview, it's highly recommended to do it over video, because from video you learn a few things as well as communicate more personally. And try to insist on that. It's not a must, but it's definitely going to help. And you can learn a lot from that. If you're interviewing someone and you're seeing goats in the background, it's not a good sign. So try to understand, see if they got connection issues, try to see the environment, try to understand a little more about the person, and try to do it, again, if you do it, try to do it in an environment that makes sense.
I thought you were saying ghosts, and I was like,
goats.
Yeah, I know, I got it.
Goats, it's funnier.
Yeah.
So try to do that. And definitely asking about the way he understands the job, it's great. right after that, just explain the job the way it actually is, and ask him why he's a good fit for the job. I also like to ask why, like what happened in his previous jobs. Why did he leave? If so, why? And if he got fired, also why did they let him go? Another important thing is usually what we do prefer to do is to make sure the employee is happy, or the freelancer, is just do one job, the first job. Let's say you're doing it by the week, give it 1 week. Through the platform you're working with, so guys can get the trust, you got the escrow assurance on the platform, and then from there we, as Ruth said, just taking the job outside, so everybody pay less, and we can just communicate directly. The first job they're getting the review that they so want on the platform, but then communication we usually use Slack, management we're using for time tracking, we use Hubstuff,
Yeah.
ClickUp for task management. What else?
We used to use Skype for a very long time before we moved to Slack. That's also a great tool.
Yeah, and free.
And free. That's a good point. But I think one of the things that we talked a lot about, but I don't know if we said directly, is the topic of communication, which is something that you check both when you're texting with this person and in the interview. You need to know that this person has good communication. The English doesn't have to be perfect. It has to be good enough that you would understand each other. It has to be good enough that they communicate. If you have a freelancer that is like afraid to speak because their English is not perfect, you can work with him. You just can't. It's not, we've tried, we've had some people like that, and they could be amazing, but I can't understand them if they refuse to talk to me. I don't care about accent. I don't care about mistakes in English. We have freelancers whose English is not that great. As long as we understand each other, that is all that.
And they're nice.
And yeah, the work atmosphere, like for us at least, it's very important that it's good. So if it's someone that is unpleasant to work with,
let him go.
Let him go. Yeah, let him go.
And by the way, I remember the two point that I forgot before. First of all, right after an interview, super important, and this is something that maybe is not counterintuitive, or even during the interview, make sure to write some comments about the person, his English level, if it's important, some skills, whatever he told you that is relevant. Give him your score, your feedback, so later on you can get back to that, because it's going to start mixing up after a few interviews, and just put it, and then you can later on get back to that and know exactly who are the guys you want to talk again with, or just or not. And then the second thing is, and this is important especially for your first hires, is make as many interviews as you can, because in your first interview, there is a good chance you're going to say after one interview, it's like, I want this guy. He's perfect. He's like, wow, he's so amazing. Yeah. And then what happens is you're doing a second interview and it's like, wow, he's so good. The previous guy is shit. Like, I don't want him to work with me. And then the more interviews you do, you start getting the better feel of who is really good, who you think you're gonna have better communication with, and who is more qualified for the job. So at least at the beginning. After a while, again, hire fast, fire faster, and then you can play with it.
It's funny that you say that now, because the people watching or listening to this are probably not gonna listen to you, because you've told me this, and you've told other friends of ours this the first time they hired someone, a new freelancer, and we didn't listen. Like I was like, yeah, no, I'm gonna listen. I'm not gonna make an impulsive decision. I understand that this is how it works. And still, the first time I interviewed someone, I was like, wow, this person is amazing. We need to work with them. So
yeah,
it just happens to everyone.
No, but it's also like interviews are such energy consuming events, and you want to get it done. It's like, okay, it's good, I just don't want to do it again. Now, another thing that we didn't mention, and I think this is true for Fiverr and Upwork, is invites. So you have the option to search And with Upwork, it costs like I think $30. It used to be free, then they did it $19, and now it's $30 per post job. And then you can invite as many freelancers as you want, and you can type keywords. You can go through a lot of profiles, and I highly recommend. I can't stress this enough. Invite as many people as you can to this job, because then more people are going to go through this funnel, and you're going to find more qualified people. And this is great because, for example, right now we're hiring for a job, and even if we fire 3 people that will come in now, we have a pipeline of highly qualified people who went through this process, because we invited like 300 people total. So that's a lot of people, and then you have a pipeline of backup people in case the ones you chose are not a good fit. From there, and I think after you find the guy you want to start working with, there's no time, there's no reason to waste any time. Just
get
started, create the documentation together, set up the KPIs, and don't micromanage. We don't mess with we didn't talk about red flags, but we don't mess with discipline at all. It's either we're having fun or we're not working together, but job must get done. If you see red flags, could be
someone disappears because there's an emergency. Now, these things could happen, but if it happens, I don't know, within a month that you're working with someone, it happens twice, this is a red. Whenever it happens on the beginning of a job, it's a red flag. But we always give them another chance. It might be an actual emergency. But then if they do it again next week, then they're gone. They're not going to stay with us. If they have a lot of internet issues all the time, and it might not be their fault, they might actually have a lot of internet issues, but you can't walk over the internet with someone who half the day doesn't have an operational internet service. There are a lot of other red flags.
Anything related to communication. If the guy disappears, you want people who are responsive, because whenever you have an emergency in a specific area of the business, you want them to be willing to answer, even if it's not during their work hours. This is just the people you want to work with, I think. And you see, if you have an employee whose grandmother died the third time in a half a year, you know that something is wrong.
Yeah.
It should this shouldn't happen.
He has ghosts in the background.
I don't know many people get 3 grandmothers.
Yeah.
So be aware of that. Obviously, what we're trying to do is we do provide some days off they can utilize during the year. We're trying to help them. We try to motivate them through performance-based bonuses. We do try to, whenever we can, have a fixed salary for them to feel comfortable and secure in their job. A lot of places are doing a very low hourly rate, and then the employees are kind of chasing after the hours and not just chasing after getting the work done. So this is something we are trying to do. Also, when you do it hourly, usually they're going to work for you half a day and then go work for someone else. We're really trying to get people to work exclusively with us, because it makes more sense, I think, for both sides. And we do try to find people that are continuing with us for years. Usually for us, it's either you split in the first week or two, and then if not, you're just staying.
And it's another point that I didn't think about until you brought it up, but in the beginning we had to be very budget aware, so we thought we were looking for the best people we could find in the smallest amount of money, and we did pay them hourly because we really didn't have a lot of money and there was no money coming in, so we had to really narrow down on who we work with and how much do they work. But now we're at a different point where it's worth it to us to pay a little bit more to get better people. So that is not to say that our developers are not, they're amazing. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the new hiring that we're doing, things like partnership management or content management. We want these people to be with us full time, and we would rather pay for someone to do a really good job.
But it's the same with our developers. It's just at the beginning, because we didn't have a budget, so we negotiated the price with them, and they were really awesome. They really tried to help us, and we negotiated a deal, and we started working together. Over time, we increased their salary, and whenever they bring in a new developer, is going directly to the new salary. There's no reason to try to negotiate the new rate. So we are just trying to, because we can afford it, but let's say we hire just for a new job, there's no reason for us to kind of over negotiate rates. We're trying to do some research in the market to understand the rates that is make sense for people, and just do based on that. But
we generally always try to go for the lowest rate we possibly could find, and then if we look for someone for a very long time, it doesn't have to be a very long time, but if we for a while are looking for a specific job and no one in the price range that we have looked for has been good enough, then we understand that maybe we need to up the rate. That's usually how we decide to up the rate for what we're looking for. Yeah. And I think the last thing, you've already said that, but I think it's a good note to end on, is hire fast and fire fast. You do not need, this is not a wedding. You're not committed to life to someone. Don't be afraid to hire someone that looks good to you, and then if they're not, you can fire them. This is how it works. This is the only way for you to really check if this person is as good as you thought, is by starting to work with them.
Yeah. The thing is, I think about hiring fast and firing faster. To me, it's always, I felt my entire life that whenever you do something good, it's getting back at you. And like in school, in the army, in workplaces I've been after, whenever some people are doing things right, everybody just let them go. Even the country, like with the police. And I kind of decided that I don't want to have this in my business. People who are not respecting the workplace and not coming to work, there's no reason, like I don't expect my employees to be as committed as I am, but I do expect them to be committed in a way that, dude, this is what you came here to do that.
This is so funny. I feel like we both have the same kind of trauma, because when I was in the army too, I used to manage some people, and they were great people, all right? But it's really hard to motivate soldiers, and it's really hard to work with someone who is not motivated.
And you can't fire.
And you can't fire them, you can't give them a raise, you can't really give them any benefits. Your only tool to motivate them is, I don't know, talking to them. So I feel like I don't want to work with people who don't want to be where they are anymore. I want to work with people who enjoy their job, and I feel like you are at the same place. So that's what we're looking for, and I think this is what creates a good working environment, like a company that people are happy to be in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so this was a long conversation, but when we talk, we tend to talk long. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We would love to hear from you in the comments below, your insights about hiring freelancers and employees in general, what you learned from this video, or maybe you have some tips that we didn't mention that we skimmed over. So share it in the comments. We read them all and reply to them all. And if you haven't yet, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss another one of our videos. And if you like this video, hit a thumbs up. And if you're still here, you probably like it. Give us a thumbs up, because it really helps us distribute this video to more people. We will see you in the next video or podcast episode, wherever you're listening to this. And until then, have a great day.
Bye.